suspicions. "Cheers, darling, and a happy birthday." Megan lifted her wine glass and looked into Luke's eyes. And many more of them, together. She kissed him, and they drank their wine. Nathan looked at the barbecue. "Not too many more glasses of wine, Daddy. Look, you're burning the steak." Luke turned to the barbecue and moved the steaks to one side. "Hey, you used to be really good at cooking barbecues. What's happened? Too much wine." "Quiet, Nathan. Luke, you don't look too well. Are you sure you're all right? Here, I have some beef curry for you over there. That should make you feel better." But Luke didn't eat the beef curry or any of the barbecue food. Megan was worried. "Darling, really? What's the matter?" "It's okay, Megan. I'm just not very hungry." The telephone rang. Luke went to answer it. A familiar voice spoke to him. "Happy birthday, partner." An echo from the past. Luke's face became white with fear. He put the phone down and walked back into the garden. Megan saw the color of his face. "Luke, love, what is it? You look terrible. Who was on the telephone?" "Nobody. It was a wrong number." "Well, come over here and cut your cake." "Okay, everyone. Here he is." "Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Luke. Happy birthday to you." All the guests cheered and clapped. Luke cut his cake and handed everyone a piece. Soon he was laughing and joking with them all. Later in the evening, Megan told Nathan to go and have his bath. "Oh, Mom! All right, I'll go if Daddy will come up afterwards and say goodnight." "Of course I will. And tell me a story?" "Yes. Now you go and have your bath." Nathan came out of the bathroom, clean, tired, and happy. Luke was sitting on his bed, waiting for him. "Hey, Daddy, aren't you glad you had that birthday?" "I certainly am." "Daddy, will you tell me that story? You know, the one about the fisherman and his wife? The way you used to tell it, with the funny voices?" "What story is that, Nathan?" "Oh, you know, Daddy, our story. I'll be the fish and you'll be the fisherman." "I don't think I know that one, Nathan." "Oh, don't tease me, Daddy. Of course you do. We've done it 1,000 times." "Well, I suppose I just don't remember it then." Nathan looked worried. Was Daddy joking or not? "Daddy, you can't have forgotten it. It's like forgetting your own name or who you are or Mummy or me." "Well, it looks as if I've forgotten it. Shall we have a different story? Shall I read you something from a book?" "Well, yes, if you say so, Daddy." Nathan listened to the story, and then Luke said goodnight. Nathan heard him going downstairs. Then he lay in bed, worrying about his father. Something was wrong. Why didn't he know how to do the barbecue? Mummy was worried too. She hadn't said anything, but Nathan knew. He was watching and listening. And who was phoning him? Why was he upset after the calls? And what about the story? He must know it. He listened to his parents talking. His mother wanted to go somewhere. To Lucy's house. You know Lucy, my friend from aerobics. She's having a tea party on Thursday afternoon. A chance for us all to have a good chat. Do you think you could stay here and look after Nathan? I'll be back by 9 o'clock. Yes, my dear, of course. I know how you women love to gossip. Oh, really, Luke? Anyway, Lucy's very nice, you know. You won't forget, will you? No, my love. I'll be here. Chapter 7. The Psychic. Megan sat in the garden, enjoying the late afternoon sun with Nathan. They looked up as Luke walked across the grass. "Hello, dear. Did you have a good day?" Fine. You see, I told you I would remember. Nathan and I are going to have fun while you ladies chat. Isn't that right?" Megan laughed and went to get ready to leave. She drove in her own car to her friend's house. The front door was open, and she walked into the hall. Lucy saw her. "Megan, come in and join us. I'm so glad you came." So am I." "Oh, look at that table. Lucy, you shouldn't have done all that." The table was laid with all kinds of sandwiches, pies, cakes, and biscuits. There were pots of different kinds of tea from all over the world. "Come over and say hello first. You know most of the people here, but I want you to meet someone." Megan followed Lucy across the room. "Rose is a very special person. She can see into the future. She can see beyond our world. She's amazing." "You mean she's a psychic?" "Yes. Isn't it exciting?" Megan looked at Rose. She was a pretty woman with bright eyes. She looked up as Megan walked towards her. "Rose, this is Megan." "Hello, Megan." Rose held Megan's hands and looked into her face. Suddenly, Rose became very still. She seemed to be frozen or hypnotized. She stared deeply into Megan's eyes, and when she spoke, she sounded shocked. "Oh my God! Your husband is dead." "No, he can't be. He's at home looking after our son." Megan took away her hands, and Rose's face turned white. Her eyes closed, and she fell to the floor. Lucy ran to her. "She's fainted. She has seen a death." "It can't be true. I left him half an hour ago." Megan ran from the room into the hall. She picked up the telephone and dialed her own number. Luke answered. "Hello?" "Luke, is that you?" "Well, yes. Who did you think it would be?" "Oh, nobody, nothing. I just wanted to check that everything was all right." "Megan, I am able to look after a 7-year-old boy, you know." Megan walked back into Lucy's living room. Rose was sitting on the settee, drinking tea. Nobody said any more about it. Megan tried to forget about it. She had something to eat and chatted with different people. When she was back at home that evening, she told Luke what had happened. Luke became strangely angry. "Why do you listen to these stupid old women? I knew you shouldn't have gone there." "Come on, Luke. There's no need to get angry. She isn't a stupid old woman and she didn't mean to hurt anyone." "Hurt? The woman is dangerous, filling your head with lies. And you, silly enough to believe her." "Luke, please don't shout. Nathan will hear you." But Nathan had already heard them both, and he was frightened. "Mummy, come up and say good night." "I'm coming, love." Upstairs in his room, Nathan was almost in tears. He put out his arms and held Megan tightly. "Why is Daddy so angry, Mummy? What's the matter with him? He's not the same. He couldn't do the barbecue. He doesn't even remember our fisherman story." "Don't worry. It's because of the accident. He's lost a bit of his memory. The doctors told me that might happen." "But why is he angry about the lady at the tea party?" "I don't know, darling. I expect it's all because of the accident. He was very ill for a long time, but he'll get completely better soon. Don't worry." "What about the people on the telephone?" "What people?" "There is nobody on the telephone, darling. You are imagining things. Now it's very late, time for boys to be asleep, and you've got the football match tomorrow, haven't you? You'll need lots of energy for that if you want to win." "We will win, Mummy. You'll see." "I'm sure you will. So go to sleep now." Megan kissed Nathan, and turned off the light. Chapter 8. The Past Strikes Back. Luke left for work early the next morning. He was still annoyed about the psychic at the tea party. He was also embarrassed about the quarrel he had had with Megan, and ashamed that Nathan had heard them. When he got into his office, he sat at his desk and looked out of the window. He telephoned Megan and asked her to come to the office later. He would clear up things between them. Then he would feel better. Then he sat quietly and watched the world go by. He wanted to be alone for a while, but a few minutes later, someone arrived to see him. A young man walked into his office. He looked about 25 years old, and he spoke to Luke as if he knew him. "Hello, Mr. Harrison. It's nice to meet you again, and good to see you looking so well after that terrible accident. Are you all right now?" Luke was a bit puzzled. He put out his hand to shake hands with the young man. "Well, I'm very well. Thank you. But I don't think we've met, have we?" "Of course we have. You remember about the new children's home? I think everything is settled now. We should be able to start on it any time now." "Look, I'm very sorry. I think there has been a mistake. First of all, this company is not going to build a children's home. Secondly, you and I have never spoken about building a children's home. Or anything, in fact. I have never seen you before." The young man was starting to get annoyed. "Now look here. Don't try those tricks on me." "These are no tricks, young man." The young man went straight up to Luke. He put his face right in front of Luke's. "Do you know what? I think there is a big trick here, because if you were really Luke Harrison, you'd certainly know me." For a moment, Luke was shocked. If he was really Luke Harrison, then he spoke. "Now just what exactly are you trying to say? I advise you to think carefully before you say any more. Don't think you can threaten me. It's you who is in the dangerous position, not me." "That's enough. Just get out of my office now." Luke walked towards the young man, and the young man walked towards the door. But as he opened the door, the young man had the last word. "Remember, he who dares wins." Then he walked out and slammed the door behind him. Luke was shaking. How did the young man know about the expression? It was something that Luke and Jake had used between them. Who was this man? Luke sat down and lit a cigarette. The telephone in front of him rang. He picked it up. "Hello? Is that Luke Harrison?" "Yes, it is. Who is speaking?" "Well, it doesn't really matter who is speaking. It's what I have to say that is important." "Oh, yes, it does matter. Who are you?" "Be quiet and listen. I've got news for you, bad news. It's about that new office block you're building." The voice was slow, teasing him. Luke spoke sharply into the telephone. "Who are you? And what about my office block?" "Well, you see, there's been an accident. Fire, a nasty fire, and it's burned your office block. There's not much left of it now. Sad, really. Just when it was nearly finished." Luke was really frightened. He shouted into the phone. "What are you talking about? Who are you? And what has happened to my office block?" "Oh dear, don't you understand English?" I said. "A fire." There was a click at the other end. The line was dead. Luke threw the phone down and covered his face with his hands. "Oh, no, no, it can't be. No." He stood up, pulled his jacket off his chair, and ran out of the room. Mary looked up from her typewriter in surprise. "Are you going out, Mr. Harrison? Don't forget the meeting this afternoon, will you?" But Luke wasn't listening. The door slammed, and he was gone. Chapter 9. Great-grandfather's clock. Megan sat at the other side of the desk and talked to Luke's secretary. Megan liked Mary. She was glad that Luke had someone like her to look after him. I was at home cooking, and Luke telephoned me. He told me to come here because he had something to tell me. That's funny, because he isn't here. He went out in a hurry. But why don't you go and wait for him in his office? It's more comfortable in there. Yes, I think I will. She went and sat down in Luke's office. Then she noticed something. Oh, that's strange. His clock has stopped. It has never stopped in all the time he's had it. She walked over and looked at it. Luke had always loved the clock. It had belonged to his great-grandfather. It was a beautiful wall clock with a pretty brass face and old numbers. It had a long pendulum, which gave a gentle tick-tock, and now, for the first time, it had stopped. Well, this will not do. You have to tick, my old friend. She opened the clock. There was a little key inside the door. Fancy Luke forgetting to wind you. He must have a lot on his mind if he forgets that. She reached down to the bottom of the clock to get the key, and she found a pile of papers. She laughed. Well, really, Luke, you are getting worse. You have an excellent secretary to look after your papers, and you leave them in an old clock. Whatever will you do next? Megan took the papers out. They were contracts for agreements and business arrangements for the last 2 years. Now Megan was puzzled. Why on earth would he do this? These are important contracts. They shouldn't be in a clock. She looked down at the papers. They had the signatures of the people Luke had made the agreements with. Signatures, stamps, dates. Then Megan noticed something else. But what on earth? This isn't Luke's signature. This is Jake's. And so it was. J.S. Fulbright. No sign of Luke's name. Megan had seen the signature many times before, on papers both Luke and Jake had signed. But these papers must have been signed in the last 2 years, after Jake died. Why is he using Jake's signature? Why isn't he signing in his own name? Then Megan realized something else. Only Jake could write that signature. It was a very personal one. Luke had often joked with Jake about it. Eccentric, Luke had called it. Well, it certainly was a strange signature. And certainly only one person could write it, and that was Jake Fulbright. But why? And how? Jake is dead. Jake has been dead for 2 years now,